It was 2:19 a.m. when the emergency radio whispered my name. Soft, distorted, and absolutely impossible. I froze, hunched over a rusted broadcast console in the old KTR-7 radio station. Outside, the fog pressed against the broken windows like a living thing, glowing faintly under the moonlight. The infected were out there somewhere, silent as statues until something triggered them. The voice crackled again, gentle but wrong. "Kara, don't go upstairs." My breath hitched. No one alive knew I was here. I turned the volume off immediately and listened. The infected didn't move. I would have heard the telltale click of their necks tilting toward the sound. That sound was unforgettable. Slow bone shifts, like someone cracking their knuckles in a dream. But tonight, the world outside the station remained still. The danger wasn't out there, it was inside. Somewhere behind the thin drywall of the broadcast booth, something was scraping, slow, deliberate, rhythmic, not claws, not nails, something mapping the inside of the walls. I held my breath, heart pounding so hard I worried it would echo, my name again, whispered directly in my ear through static. "Kara, they learned you." I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. I survived the outbreak by following rules. Strict, obsessive routines that kept me alive where millions had fallen. The infected didn't chase sound. They hunted vibration. Every footstep mattered. Every breath mattered. Drop a coin, and 10 of them would tilt their heads toward you. I learned these rules through mistakes. Some small, some deadly. Never touch windows. They could sense the pressure change, like sharks smelling blood. Never walk on the second floor. The vibrations traveled too well. Never broadcast. Sound carried farther than anyone expected. And the newest rule, the one whispered over the radio last night, don't go upstairs. The problem was simple. The generator was failing again, and I needed power. Power meant light. Light meant sanity. Sanity meant survival. So despite the warning and the dread curling through my spine, I strapped my headphones on, tightened my boots, and started toward the staircase. Every creak of the wood felt like a death sentence. Halfway up the stairs, I felt it again. A vibration, light as a fingertip, pressing against the back of my heel. Not from the stairs, from inside the wall. I turned my head slowly. A bulge pushed outward from the drywall, like something crawling through clay. It didn't rupture, didn't break, just pressed, testing the surface, exploring. The whisper returned louder now, cutting through my headphones even though they weren't connected to anything. "Kara, leave." I bolted down the stairs, landing too hard on the final step. The vibration echoed. Outside, a dozen necks clicked in response. They had heard. I killed all the lights, dropped behind the console, and forced myself to breathe quietly. Outside the windows, shadowed silhouettes drifted closer to the building, drawn by that single vibration. They stopped only inches from the glass, waiting, listening. For nearly 2 hours, I didn't move a muscle. By dawn, the silhouettes slid away into fog, as silently as they had arrived. The bulge in the wall was gone, but the whisper wasn't. When sunlight finally broke through the fog, I climbed to the roof, carefully avoiding loose gravel. Below, the infected had gathered in formation. Not random clusters, not shambling groups, patterns, spirals, lines, concentric circles pointing toward the broadcast tower. At the center of the largest spiral stood a single infected, wearing my missing headphones. They weren't just attracted to sound, they were arranging themselves around it, like ants building shapes for communication or worship. My stomach twisted. Something had changed these last few weeks. Something that felt more intelligent. I didn't stay long. Back downstairs, the radio clicked on by itself. Static peeled open like a wound. "They learned from you, Kara." I slammed the power off. The whisper kept going. "You sent signals. They listened. They evolved." And then the scraping in the walls started again. I had survived 4 months by being careful, but the radio knew my name. The infected knew my routines. Something in the walls knew my heartbeat. Staying meant dying. I packed fast: water, knives, duct tape, batteries, protein bars, a flare gun, and the portable radio I had sworn never to use again. Then I opened the emergency exit. A single infected stood silently outside the door, its head slowly tilted toward me. Click. Then it lifted one arm and pointed toward the woods, as if giving directions or orders. I didn't wait to find out which. I ran. The forest swallowed me like a mouth, dark and dripping with dew. Branches hung low like skeletal fingers. I moved silently between the trees, careful of twigs and loose leaves. Behind me, the infected did not follow. Not running, not chasing. The eye.